Hello, my name is Cora. This is my submission for the EDI Option 2 project for Chem 102, Winter 2024. My topic is Ancient China and the development of gunpowder. In order to understand how gunpowder came to be, we have to turn back time to the early 1200s, where gunpowder was originally being studied by Chinese alchemists and Taoist monks who were searching for the elixir of life. Gunpowder was originally called fire medicine and was used as a skin treatment. However, there were many complications that led to a lot of skin burns and house fires when they realized that it was easily combustible. Before we go too much into the cultural significance of the development of gunpowder and a little more about the history, we're going to talk about the chemistry. The chemical formula for gunpowder is potassium nitrate plus carbon plus sulfur that gives us potassium carbonate, potassium sulfate, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. To form gunpowder, the process is to combine sulfur, charcoal, and saltpeter, also known as potassium chloride, that are finely crushed together in a 10 to 15 to 75 ratio. Saltpeter is something that forms naturally on Chinese soil and is a white substrate. Likely due to the climate is why it is so easily formed, as it forms out of decomposing organic material. When this fine powder is ignited, the sulfur burns first due to its low ignition temperature. The ignition of sulfur then triggers charcoal ignition, which acts as the reaction's fuel. When a temperature of 355 degrees Celsius is reached, the saltpeter is ignited, acting as a catalyst for combustion. The gases formed from combustion push in every direction, giving the explosive outcome to launch projectiles. Alright, we'll dive back more into the history and the application of gunpowder. As mentioned before, it was discovered in the 9th century and wasn't initially used as a weapon until the late 1200s. It became a weaponry tool when the Mongolian forces had invaded and occupied large portions of China, and the Chinese people wanted to push the Mongolian forces back out. They used the gunpowder first by attaching tubes of gunpowder to arrows, igniting them, and then launching them at soldiers. This was also the first time that rockets were developed was during this conflict, and it was used to kind of disperse large crowds of invaders and large groups of people. They originally were using bamboo shoots that were hollowed out and lined with gunpowder to shoot small projectiles, but this eventually turned into a more sophisticated method of an iron casting barrel that was handheld and weighed about 8 pounds that could shoot these iron casted hollow balls that would be filled with gunpowder and that would explode upon impact. However, the design of this wasn't perfect because it did often explode on soldiers who were using them. So after the fire arrows and the rockets, the Chinese were also the first to develop the first gun in 1288, which helped them to secure a long-standing United Chinese dynasty and ultimately changed warfare across the entire globe as we know it. Eventually, through trade on the Silk Road and their continued conflict with the Mongolians, gunpowder found its way to Europe, where it was originally viewed as witchcraft and led to the persecution of a lot of people. But it quickly became a staple in European militaries. However, Europe was not able to naturally produce as much potassium nitrate as China was able to, and created a new challenge to process and form potassium nitrate. Since saltpeter is formed from bacteria in topsoil from decomposing organic matter, the Europeans decided to create ideal environments to recreate this saltpeter using plaster, manure, and urine, especially urine with high alcohol concentrations. The reason they did that and used the urine was because it was an ideal component due to the alcohol concentration that produced ammonium that nitrate was able to consume, giving them their potassium nitrate. Over time, they found that powder was relatively useless when it became damp or wet, And so this led to the process of granulation, where they would add a small amount of liquid to the powder, set it out to dry into large granules. That was easier to load into weapons, and it kept better. So it just stayed better for longer because the granulation kept moisture out. Today, granulation techniques are used in pharmaceuticals to ensure the right concentration of active ingredients. Obviously, they don't use urine. That would be super gross. Today, gunpowder is used mainly for fireworks, in some rockets. And when we look at our fireworks there, the reason that it has that sparkly effect is the burning of charcoal.